politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
What you call a police station?
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
What you call a police station? Before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Very good morning to you. Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us here on Global Television or live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Muyi Agumofwegbe, again welcoming you to Global Morning. It's a Friday. They say a great weekend begins on a Friday. I'm sure yours is off to a very wonderful start now. And then for a country like Nigeria, where every other day there's a challenge and the country continues to just push on with confidence, with courage, and with resilience, it's only good that you do everything within your means and within the means of the law to ensure that you enjoy every bit of the weekend. But then we have big conversations in front of us on the show today. Just on Wednesday, it was a pivotal moment for not just for Nigeria, but again for democracy as we know it, because that was the day on which the presidential election petition courts, or some people say tribunal, actually delivered judgments in many of those matters that had been brought before it by political parties and their respective presidential candidates. The rest is history now, because we know how it turned out. Again, the declaration of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, of Bola Tinubu, the candidate of the APC in the election, as the winner of the presidential election 2023, has now been upheld by the tribunal. In the aftermath of all of that, by way of reaction, we have seen at least one or two of the candidates of the other political parties now coming up to talk about how that they will escalate, as it were, to the Supreme Court, because they say they have a lot of confidence in the judicial system, even though they differ with that judgment, which is obviously within their rights. But all of these developments have very fundamental implications for Nigeria as a sovereign, and then for our democratic process, as well as for electioneering in this country. Most of us are not ignorant of several of the things that happened in the run-up to the election, and then, of course, how those elements also shapes the exercise itself. But again, whether we want to accept it or not, governance as a very serious business has already begun in Nigeria. We had a president, we have a president sworn in on the 29th of May, and he's doing his 4th month in office, and he's in India as we speak right now, having conversations about foreign direct investments and giving reassurances of how that Nigeria is ready to do business with very serious countries. And we understand that there's some $14 billion deal on the table right now, which again has created excitement, especially within the business community in this country. But while all of that is going on, can we afford for post-election issues, pre-election issues to continue to be, for want of better words, a distraction to us as a country? What vital, valuable lessons are we learning from the electioneering that happened around the last general election, particularly drawing from this verdict by the petition election, presidential election court? And then we also want to look at the role of INEC again, because every time there's an election, whether it is the general election cycle or some off-grid elections like we're going to have in Kogi and Bayelsa very soon, you realize that INEC is always in the center, right in the center of the conversation. As they say on social media, INEC is always being dragged one way or another. But there was something very pivotal in the judgment of Wednesday. That was when the justices themselves said that, look, going by whether the Constitution or the extant law, which is the Electoral Act 2022, INEC is not under compulsion to use a particular means or mode to transmit election results. That was very explicit. However, some persons have come to also rail against that position. But we can't forget quickly how that in the final analysis, the Constitution is the ground norm, as lawyers would say. In addition to that, we now have a piece of extant instrument, which is the Electoral Act 2022, signed into law by the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari, now becoming, as some people have called it over time, a game changer for politicking and electioneering in Nigeria. That's the big conversation in front of us this morning. We also will take our time to look at papers for you and bring you big headlines on this very promising Friday. All of that will come up right after this short break. Do stay with us. I'm joined by Oladotun Hassan. He's President Yoruba Council Worldwide, and he doubles as a lawyer and a public affairs commentator. Hassan, thank you for coming on the program this morning.
It's a pleasure to be on the program. Good morning, viewers at home.
Great. So, I mean, you are a lawyer, and first, you are a Nigerian, and you also followed all of the drama associated with the election, and more precisely, the judgment of Wednesday. I mean, you probably have been taking out time since that day to look at all of the elements in that judgment. Beyond the technicalities and how Nigerians are now reacting to it, what is your candid assessment?
Well, my candid assessment will start with the campaign model of this 2023 election, how it all started and how we arrived at the position that we have today. It's is a change climb, like what we used to have maybe before now. The way we vote was like either PDP or APC or any political party. But this time it's not just about political party. Religion, ethnicity, your political interest. All these things were more on the front burner. And it's the most fearsome election that is within our history. But the fact that all eyes was more on the INEC, it was nobody can tell me less that election of 2023, irrespective of the skirmishes of crisis prior before then, my fear was, will we be able to even meet up that election date as a country? Because it was more like we are nosediving into civil war, because the war of attrition on social media and the mob of attack and everything was more like we are going into a world war situation, because it is more than a civil war, but more like everybody having their own war, trying to bring it and push it against each other, from lawyers to Christians to Muslims to traditional. Everybody had their own position. But at the end of the day, the judgment speaks for itself. Now it's all about the facts before the court. The court were so explicit enough to educate the lawyers, educate both those for the PDP, for the Labour Party, and for the APC, even to the INEC. This judgment of this year's is a locus classicus. That's what we call it in the legal parlance. That's going to come many years to come to serve as our guiding navigation, because you're not going to bring up issue of FCT again for any reason, because for you to raise it up, it should be as if you are already violating a court order, because the issue of FCT, by reasoning, that doesn't pay, because if everybody says for you to win, you must have 25% of FCT. Do you know how many, all the candidates will load their supporters into FCT? Then FCT will just be a working cost, because the amount of population you have there will make it the determinant factor, meaning it's unreasonable, repugnant to equity and good conscience. So now going into the judgment proper, what are the facts? The evidence the court are looking for is compliance to the Electoral Act. there was substantial compliance by INEC. INEC published voters list. INEC did everything that's meant to do. INEC put up all the structure of institutions on election day. Where are the issues? The citizens, the fighters of both for and against are the crisis. If everybody is politically orientated to know that this is all about governance and not who's from your village or town or fighting a dead to end fight that, oh, we must use this as a dividing principle to end the country or shutting the country down, that does not show patriotism. If we are patriotic, look at how elections are being conducted in other climes, especially in US and UK. Yes, they have their fighting, but once the elections stop, governance starts. But here, that government will be at the heels of everything coming out of the Nazareth. Nothing good can come out of it. And I want to reiterate, but the fact that I've always been an advocate and supporter of Asiwaju, I believe strongly he has the capacity to deliver his promises. He might be starting on a rough edges because the country before now is opaque, unsteady, and we have been following up with the economic doldrum that the country has faced in the time past, especially over 20 decades of our governance institution. They have nothing. We are just having a president that is submissive to the wills and caprices of the people, whereby you say this, you quickly attend to it. Look at the electricity tariff. It were to be another government. We've had government of Buhari. Whatever you complain from morning till night, what they want to do is what they will do. They care less about how things go. Now it's trying to balance those errors, trying to look at what is wrong in the CBN. How do we manage the NNPCCL? How do we throw up the market so that if we throw up the market, would that create a force of demand whereby you know how much our SIM card was selling before, but when the market was thrown open, there were competition for those that will bring it at a lesser price. We still believe that some marketers will still trudge into the market, that they will sell for a 200 naira per liter that can kill or die the price. But there are some certain issues that the president must attend to, and that is the dollar exchange rate. If that is not cured, because for now we are not having local production, until we start having local production, it is not yet Uhuru. But the president has promised that is going to deliver that. So let's not go into that, but let's key into our discourse that what we are saying today is 8 million of Asiwaju's votes versus 6 million of Atiku versus 6 million of Peter Obi and 1-point-something million for Kwankwanso. These are real votes of the people. None of them that went into court compromised the votes. They were not even after, the votes were there, because none of them pitched issues against the number of votes they had.
The numbers were not the basis for going
to court. The numbers were not the basis. If it were to be numbers, meaning they equally, all of them understand the fact that they outnumbered each other by vote, because none of them can compete again, because you'll be lying against yourself. Because all your agents, Atiku had all the agents in all the 175 polling units. I cannot say much of Peter Obi, maybe 40-something thousand, and your 40-something thousand cannot be compete to say you cover the entire field. But for a well-experienced Atiku facing a gladiator like Asiwaju, both of them are well-experienced on the field of game. And Atiku has been there many years before Tinubu. Tinubu is just coming as a presidential candidate for the first time, but he had led a battle into a war against a ruling party. So meaning he understands the rhetorics of his opponent. So for us, you might say Tinubu lost his home state, Lagos, Osun State, some other southwestern state, meaning there were highly competitive votes that Atiku really fought in Tinubu's domain. And Tinubu equally took his own battle into the north. So we have to look at this battle. The issue that affected Peter Obi was the religious sentiment. A whole lot of the Christendom voted on their own sentiment. So the votes were carried from different prisms. And that is why none of them can really raise the eyebrow, because the vote they had was the original vote. And for us now, is for records, is if you are running for any election, put up your records in clear terms. The issue of, Asiwaju records, this and that, all those ones have been well settled based on previous antecedent records, that he has no criminal conviction by virtue of the claims of his dual citizenship. Citizens of other countries can be given honorary citizenship based on your investment in their country, based on your love for the country. They can just
and their visa and immigration policies.
So it's an immigration policy that does not equate you that you are a dual. A lot of all the, even Peter Obi had dual citizenship, Atiku had dual citizenship, but it is not all of them. We cannot strictly begin to hit ourselves to death. If you have that intention that this election is a do or die, just like one word of former president that this election is a do or die, which was the way it was taken, and some people are still taking it that because from the messages that Obi himself is doing us a deadly harm by not correcting the narrative in the polity from his supporters. He's thinking he's enjoying the euphoria, but I bet it, by the time this euphoria is enjoying today, turn around at him that, oh, the same mob is cooking up today for a counter. A time will come, this same mob will have their own intention, their pound of flesh.
I want to ask you this real quick. I mean, in the weeks and months leading up to the election, we saw narratives flying everywhere. We saw, real-time efforts at propaganda. In fact, we saw propaganda machines being rolled out from all sides, all the political parties. When we look at all of this, in the grand scheme of things, is it factual, is it correct, is it scientific to say that these last round of elections were about issues?
Well, it's a mixed breed. Mixed breed in terms of, if you look at the presidential debate from factor, not all of them honored their individual presidential,
including the now president, who was the candidate of the APC.
But where I salute the altruistic audacity of the president is the fact that he addressed some forums, highly intellectual forums, whereby he welcomed questions from economic, from bankers, from different sectors of society, engaging, having this direct fearsome argument, like, yes, you are here to face your interview. It was just more of, I have a job to attend, you interview me. I don't need to debate on, oh, your head is yellow, my head is white, this. Those are more or less, maybe that is from his own point. He has his reason. And sometimes the political bandwagon that were being used, some TV stations aligned strictly behind some political parties. And it was so glaring that, oh, why do I have to go to a debate whereby the arbiters and the judges are members of XYZ political party? Why must I be there? That they raised those eyebrows. But in all fairness, everybody had their own fair share of telling their own different stories. And it again, but at the heel of propaganda, that is the killing syndrome that is yet to heal. And I want to advise the president that, come, it's your duty. You are a president of the obedient, you are the president for the articulated, you are the president for the Baptists. So you are not a president for Baptists alone. You have to look for a way to satisfy the demand. What are these demands? Because we've all suffered long before now. The sufferings of both the Baptists and the articulated and obedient is the same. The truth that is pinching all of us and pains is the same. So Mr. President needs to equate governance on a pedestal of equilibrium that will meet the yearnings of Nigeria based on his renewed hope agenda promises. We are too eager for solution. Let it not be appealing for extension of our pains and dragging us into every appeal. Let us see physical changes. Definitely has started on a good note, but it needs to remove the veil of politics and add more of governance. The veil of politics is still beclouding a lot of sentiment around his appointment, around this, even internally within the presidency. It needs to correct some anomalies. Call the chief of staff to order to know his duties. Let appointment be based on merit.
Do you think the chief of staff in particular, this is, some people will say, a Tinubu boy. It comes with a lot of experience, whether as a lawyer like yourself or as a politician, especially at the legislative level. This is the immediate past speaker of the House of Representatives. Do you think he's lagging behind in terms of what his core mandate should be as chief of staff?
Yeah, well, on a good note, he has been able to add up to the governance. If he's lagging behind, we will not be having the achievement we've had in the presidency so far, because you cannot take out the entire presidency and separate the chief of staff out of it. That is the entire gamut of power. But he needs to do more. He needs to be more articulated with his plans and agenda. He himself is a government person. He needs to give us direction. When the president, the chief of staff is the fonset ergo of power. That is the head of all structure of Mr. President. That is the person that gives directive from the voice of the president. So he needs to see himself more destabilize Nigerians. Yes, he is, but he needs to go more further. He doesn't need to really hang everything on politics, satisfying the boys, ensuring that everybody gets this, but he needs to open up his windows of opportunity. He needs to have a large heart. He needs to give Nigeria what they really need. Nigeria needs succor. So we have seen a chief of staff that almost cost the entire country and throw the country into abyss based on his mannerism of his power fist onto power. So we only need the fact that he's a lawyer. He's gotten the experience of managing the whole representative of the nation, meaning he has gotten a foresight of how Nigeria is at a go. But there is more to experience. He needs to see himself more as the president's soul. That is the president's soul. He needs to begin to go down to the nooks and crannies of where things are happening. He needs to have his own high ears on the ground, not political ears that will not say the right thing, but his own ears on the ground from every opposing parties.
You mentioned the debate a while ago. There are calls from some quarters now that we should legalize debates as an integral part of our electioneering in such a way that it becomes mandatory that everybody who throws their hearts into the ring as a candidate, whether it's presidential or gubernatorial, whatever it is, must be subjected to debates. In the case of the now president, then candidate of the APC, a lot of persons would argue, within and outside of his party, that what he did was not only thematic, but it was very strategic and was unconventional, because he never attended the regular debates as we know them. Instead, he had to look for some sort of clusters, some sort of cohorts, some sort of small groups that he spoke to, the business community, those in the corporate world, professionals, and so on and so forth. In the U.S., debates is not even subject to a debate, so to speak. I mean, it's only natural that you expect when there's an election coming up, there will be rounds of debates. In the case of Nigeria, is that a model you think we should adopt so that we have many, expanded conversations about the issues that plague us?
Well, my own position is the fact that there must be total review of the electioneering process from the formation of INEC, duties of INEC. INEC ought to be the one to conduct debates, no any other person.
So the model we've been using now is an error?
Well, I'm coming. This is an institutionalized process. INEC needs to be more independent. There is an agitation that, you cannot dictate, you dictate the paper, appoint the paper, dictate his tune. That is the scenario we see in various state, local government and national elections. If not for the way Jonathan's election for the first time, that is when we can say, INEC was able to even give a delivery election.
That was in 2015?
Yes, because if the president appointed the INEC chairman and the INEC chairman delivered another president, that means there was, to that extent, we saw a free and fair. But where we have an idiomatic president that is really, really face to power and tough to power, to be dangerous for you to lay our life on the appointment of INEC chairman on the beacon or table of the president.
So we have to go back to the law.
Yes, we have to go back to the law. I will not be an advocate that Mr. President or governor should be appointing CIEC or INEC chairman. The way we have our judiciary and the way our judiciary is being presumed to be independent of every other, without political inclination, without the appointment of card-carrying members into electoral commission as commissioners of INEC. Those are dangerous elements for our politics. Irrespective of the fact that APC is winning today, that is really dangerous for our politics. It won't give free, fair, and credibility of the process. Meaning, once we have an INEC that has its own institution, maybe they pick from retired judges based on their independent model of training as lawyers, as commissioners, maybe chief justice of various states, chief justice, because they want to die good. I don't say other electoral officers don't want to, but they have gotten some large art of experience to maintain their dignity. Every judges have dignity, but not in all cases, but majority. But their dignity and experience counts. If we have such prison that, oh, let this process come from this process from the judiciary, so that from day one, the judges that know that, yes, we conducted the process, we are part of the process, and the appointment of these lecturers, professors are killing our process. Let us have a well-directed, trained ad hoc staff that are manning elections. You know that they are already foot soldiers, and they need not, it's the same people. If they have any experience, you don't need to be retraining ad hoc staff every year in, year out, and spending billions. Why must INEC budget be higher than the budget of a whole country? Because they want to conduct election, they will review all the process they spend every 4 years. But if you have it as an institution, all you need to do, go back to your drawing board, review, bring out who is there. You hold everybody accountable. So we don't need professors of university to come and be returned. They can be monitoring agents. But if it is strictly INEC, let INEC officials be manning elections polling units. Let them, they have the capacity to employ 1 million staffs, because this is an independent arm. But it shouldn't hold us to the jugular by this process. If it were to be the real process of electionary process from local government to the federal, all elections will be conducted by INEC within the same period, within the same time of year, so that you know that you're having, for every electionary year, the grassroots consciousness will be built upon a solid pedestal to the national election, and debates would have formed part of the timetable of INEC as they are registering, as they are counting the number of votes, maybe having records of voters, bringing all these things semantic accordingly. And one critical area that is affecting us that we are not seeing is the fact that we are now in a digital age. INEC is still living in the past, half digital, half old way of life. No, we can't. If you want to be digitalized, let's begin to have a national security number that from your age of, from your birth to death, you already know who are alive, who's still, from your adult suffrage age, your security number will know that, yes, you are already entitled to vote. But the way we are still manning, whereby collection of INEC card, 5 years old will be collecting in Kano, and no caution will be laid, nobody to even say no, because the process have given room for that. But if INEC actually want to really build itself, let INEC work with NIMC for us to have a national security number, centralized from every bet in every local community. That to even make us to know that non-citizens are not voting in our country, because you know those that are Nigerian by birth. And this will give room for those in the diaspora to equally vote, because your social security number will be added to your passport and everything, meaning you can vote at any place. So on election day, all INEC needs to do is to set up the machine, the computer and everything, just press the button. So there will be no need for voiding of votes. You will not see voided vote, because you actually press the button, and the button cannot press two spaces. So we'll be by this process, we'll create that semblance of free and fairest process, and the confidence will be rejigged in our electionary process.
If you look back now, you realize that 6 days ago, which was exactly last Saturday, local government elections had been held in Edo State. Now, I'm not going to be the one to tell you how much of fight that has generated, because just last Monday, the governor there, Governor Obaseki, had sworn in the elected local government chairman across all 18 local government chairmen. Time will fail us to talk about the autonomy that the local government councils ought to enjoy. We have spoken with lawyers like yourself, and they say there's a problem with Section 2 of our Constitution. That's what the governors are leveraging, that's what they are exploiting to, if you like, also plunder, as it were, the funds of the local government councils. But I want to talk about quite specifically how, taking matters to courts following elections. has become a problem for our democracy, because people say once a governor or a president is in office, just knowing that he has a matter in court against him from his opponents can be a mental distraction from him, and ultimately that can adversely rub off on his ability and capacity to perform while in office. Is it a problem of patriotism, maybe lack of patriotism, that is responsible for us not conceding, even when we are convinced that we have lost the election?
You know, it is not just about that. Our problem starts and ends with our opaque constitution. I call it opaque constitution because we still operate it military decree, that one of the Absalami decree that profile the existence of our constitution, which is dangerous.
With the people problem.
Yes, with the people problem, because we the people never sat. I will tell you the truth, the way it is. I care less of whose is God, because this is our nation. I'm patriotic about Nigeria. I'm not patriotic about any person in power. I might just be supporter of the person based on what I want for my people or how I want Nigerians to grow, or which direction the country must survive. But on the premise of our election, our democratic orientation, we are still politically illiterate as citizens. Do you know why? Our only belief on democracy is in our thumb on election day. After that, everybody goes to their marketplaces. Nobody wants to talk about how the government needs to be positioned. Who are they? Who are the people the governor is going to be appointing? Nobody plays role in it. You don't even decide. You just bring in commissioners' essays that you and I know that these people have nothing to do with governor, but because they must just satisfy their boys and girls, you just have to accept your fate. But it's all about the entire process. It's democracy, government for the people, and by the meaning the people comes at the center. Once we gather that value, strength, yes, the people are consciously building that strength now. They might be coming dangerously from different angles. That is one beautiful thing 2023 election have been able to surpass by eroding our consciousness into our democratic process. So more people are now more conscious and trying to understand for the first time. Even those that are 40, 50 years will tell you they are voting for the first time in our country, which means people have not been conscious for over 2 decades of our existence in democracy, but they come on social media. But at the end of the day, the torrent of people that voted, the majority of people that have been voting before now, are the, I'm so sorry, the subclass illiterate, that, those that you know that are lowly educated or lack no education, the shoemakers, the artisans, the market women. These people are more politically conscious because they collect their vote. If you see a shoemaker with his voter's card every day, but what about the banker? What about the lawyers? Are we that politically conscious to stay the horde of day and night to know that our election must begin to count from the one you elect that person to the last day in office? So it's about the orientation. And now the National Orientation Agency have not been doing anything in that same corridor. That is their own fundamental to educate the people on different areas of the polity. So these institutions, we must give kudos to your media organizations that is always at the front, at the forefront, orientating the masses, the citizens, to be conscious. What we are doing is educating them. So what would be good is that there be, let our political maturity of going into a battle and congratulating each other when the entire institutional process is fair enough, a fair contest. When you know that as you are going, like option A4, if you are losing, you lose, but don't create enmity after your loss. Know that it's based on...
Don't set the country on fire.
Don't even think that if my people don't vote for me, they hate me. It doesn't count. You just have to, if you are bringing yourself for service, from local government chairman, councillors, and all this position, and the constitution, which I say is that is haphazardly made to just pursue or lay the military back into the barrack and bury them there. But for a governance and an advanced country as ours, we need to advance our constitution by ensuring all this independence of INEC. INEC itself should be given a whole section process on day in, day out management and their authority, even the Electoral Act that we are equally signing. All these things ought to be embedded in our constitution. We don't need to have a separate laws whereby we will now be quoting from different drivers of law. Oh, let us look at the combined quoting of this section, this section. But if it were to be the ground norm, what we are talking about is the live wire of democracy. Why do you have to throw it up into an act? You must bring it into the Constitution. If it is as part and parcel of our Constitution that this is the INEC section on number of political party, registration of political, deregistration of political party, reason and how, who should be on election polling unit, duties of each electoral officer, we don't know. You and I don't know duties of a returning officer. You don't even know the duties of adult staff. You just find that go there, see this one, thumb printing, this one, pushing up paper. Everybody don't even know what they are doing on election day.
No clear-cut mandates.
No clear-cut mandate. But if INEC and is properly institutionalized, and meaning we have a very long way to go if the president have to situate his battle now. One, he has a battle to ensure that we have a future in our laws. A law that will recognize the 6 geopolitical zones, recognize ethnicity, recognize our barriers, now bring everybody together. Not a constitution that will give room for Sharia oppression and does not give room for traditional oppression in the
same country.
In the same country. That is big. That's why I call it, the ground norm is our problem. If you know your problem, no matter how cancerous your problem is, you can start to heal the problem if you bring antidotes. The antidote is getting the focused mind that, oh, we've gotten records of sovereign acts of national comfort before. They have gotten records of 1963 General Assembly before. All this, merge it together, just bring clear-headed mind that, Wale Soyinka, bring them, Falana, just bring people of diverse political and professional background to review this document and come up with a solution, just a committee to look into the operational modus operandi of our country. These are philosophers. You must have philosophers. The olden age had philosophers that think and straighten the future of their country. So we must, beyond political party, beyond the infighting, we must look at how do we jail our people. We've lived together as neighbors, but we are never loving each other as citizens. So there is a need for citizenship consciousness and patriotism.
I'd like to thank you so very much, Oladoto Hassan, President, Yoruba Council Worldwide, a lawyer and a public affairs commentator, for coming to share with us.
Thank you very much.
Good morning today. That's what we're leaving it with this conversation. Everyone, when I return shortly, we'll be looking at big headlines from across Nigerian dailies for you. Do stay with us. Time to begin looking at the papers for you now. We'll begin with the Daily Sun for today. Big story here. It says Atiku Obi open up on tribunal's verdicts. All right, that's the star story there. Then beside the nameplate, choose peace. Who is saying that? It says choose peace or get killed. DHQ wants terrorist criminals. Okay, you find details of that story on page 4 of Daily Sun. The options are in front of them. You can't continue to trouble a country like Nigeria and expect that there won't be a consequence. Okay, we have riders just underneath the big story on the front page of Daily Sun. Atiku will be open up on tribunal's verdicts. Ex-VP, we lost battle, not war, dismisses judgment as bereft of justice. Case has not reached logical conclusion. Obi do a vow to head to Supreme Court. Judiciary has strengthened democratic process. APC, Nigeria without true democracy. Ozekome is the one to whom that statement is credited. Okay, Army to court-martial 15 officers, 9 soldiers. Ondo Governor Akeredolu returns after 3 months medical leave. Tribunals affirm Adeola and Ned Nwoko as duly elected senators. Rep seats, LP floors APC, PDP in Edo, APC wins Imo seats. 19 kidnapped in Abuja, 30 killed in illegal mining landslide. Quite a sad story. There we'll hold emergency security meeting to address issues. That's Wike talking. I have no regret working against PDP. A BA NDDC chair designates. I have no regret working against PDP. A BA NDDC chair candidate on page 26 of today's Daily Sun issue. Okay, The Nation is our next port of call. The Nation newspaper here, it says just above the nameplate, Nigeria, Australia to partner on training of local miners. Customs stops defaulting banks from revenue collection. Akeredolu recuperating in Ibadan on return from vacation. Lagos Assembly drops 2 Sanwo-Olu's new nominees. Oil thefts, firms, MDAs host communities involved, say security chiefs. Oil theft firms, MDAs host communities involved, say security chiefs. Atiku Obi, why we are challenging tribunal verdicts. Don't go to Supreme Court. Bello, Wike, Bruce, urge PDP, LP candidates. APC, judgment reinforcing democracy, judiciary's vibrancy. That judgment is not, let's see what it says. It says that judgment is not communous with justice. Obi, the decision of the court falls far short of my expectation. Atiku, the outcome remains a wholesale endorsement of our party's vision. That's according to the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Tinubu promises better future with good leadership. Master gives NIS to weeks to clear outstanding passports, all right, clear outstanding passports. Page 4, how feasible is that directive for a Nigerian immigration service, that is the NIS, that has for years complained about one problem after, amongst all, from what we have heard since 2019/2020 has been on availability of booklets. Some of these problems are very embarrassing for not just the service, that is the immigration service itself, but for Nigeria as a country. I mean, how do we explain in 2023 that people had applied for passports in 2021? And going forward, the concern is how feasible would that be, given the depth of issues that this service, the immigration service, that is, has had to deal with over time, plus the issue of reputation and so on and so forth. But we are not only wishing them the best, they will get all the support they want from Nigerians, as long as there's sincerity of purpose and, of course, there's transparency. Several reports have, I mean, they are all in the public space about some of the issues associated with the Nigerian immigration. There should be some reforms carried out, even though we know, in a manner of speaking, her days are also numbered in office. But again, leadership, especially at an institutional level, should be a continuum. And we hope that will happen within the rank and file of the Nigerian Immigration Service. Okay, let's stay with stories just on the, still on the Nation newspaper this morning. Okay. Tinubu promises better future with good leadership. Yes, that is also there. But let's turn now to look at the blueprints for you. The blueprint is equally loaded, I must say, this morning. Here with the Minister of Interior again, Tunji Ojo, says Tunji Ojo orders clearance of 200,000 passport backlog in 2 weeks. So that sounds like 100,000 to be cleared each week. Let's see how this tall order will be carried out. Plateau probe medical doctor over alleged harvest of housewives' organ. Page 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. Ondo Governor Akeredolu returns after 3-month medical trip. Atiku on presidential tribunal ruling. We lost the battle but not the war. With riders here, ex-VP Obi head to Supreme Court, say judgment bereft of justice. We are still in shock, says PDP. Buhari hails PEPT for refusing to be intimidated. APC urges losers to team up with Tinubu for national development. That story is on page 5 of today's Blueprint newspaper. Okay, and then we have a few more to look at here in terms of the stories. A few more to look at here. It says banks to clear 120 billion naira USSD debt to telecom companies. Dambata. All right, there's that one. Then it says again, naira weakens to 930 to the dollar at black markets as dollar scarcity persists. All right, Nigeria may take 300 years to instructive to read on page 22 of the Blueprint newspaper. It says Nigeria may take 300 years to close infrastructure gap. We've seen reports, several reports with regards to the challenge of infrastructure that Nigeria has, and then several projections as to what needs to be done and the timeline for those actions to be carried out. In one instance, we will need no less than $20 billion every year